And yes, we're live, and this is pre-dev meeting for me, John, and Sapriti, and anybody else who just can't get enough of website one, or perhaps if you just can't make it to the dev meeting that is scheduled for 1800 UTC. That's in 55 minutes approximately. Anyway, I was thinking we could take the opportunity to talk about the events epic that is quite complex, involves a lot of stuff that needs to be done, and we have to start someplace. So over to you, John. You know.
Okay, this should be up and running now. Let me share my screen.
Hello.
Hello, Sampriti. How are you doing?
Okay, good.
All right, we hear you. We were just starting to talk about the events epic and some stuff that John wants to talk us through.
Okay, so you can see my screen there?
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know if I was showing this to Sam this morning, but I don't think you were in the meeting yet when I showed him. So this is the Hangout screen, which is the one that ERO designed. I don't know if it's part of production at this point, but
not yet. It's stuck and developed right now. Yeah.
So the difference is here I have this new event button is different. So let me click on that. Let me type in Hangout event, whatever. Doesn't really matter. And let's save it. Okay, so you can see a new Hangout event was created here. This was actually created as a Hangout, not so internally. It's stored in the Hangouts table, the Hangout using a Hangout model, right? So that is that's different. And the other difference is that it has not started yet. So if I go back to the events page here, I create a new event. And I give it, okay, so I'll save this whatever time, doesn't matter. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit, or no, that's not what I want to do. I want to edit the Hangout link so that it will think that it's live. And I go back to the Hangouts page. Okay, so we can see there's this is the new event, which is, pseudo live. It thinks it's live. There's a join button, a watch button, and then for the new event, which hasn't started yet, there's a start button, and we could also have like an edit button for it. So okay, so what this does not have at this point, which is where an additional level, probably bigger level of complexity comes in, is this page does not have any recurring events on it. And so I'm thinking the first story is basically what you see here. Just
but I just want to ask about some potential pitfalls. So we are actually right now using two different tables to store very similar information. Because the only difference here is, the way I see it, that the event you created, the second one, is a recurring thing, basically, right? And the first one is a one time only.
No, neither are occurring. The only difference here is that one has not started yet and one has. So it's even less of a difference than than what you were thinking. So okay. So if we were, okay, here's the thing. If we want to later on, when we do add an instance of a recurring event, we may want to do things such as change the time of that instance, or remove a specific instance while keeping the series intact, or maybe change the description of it. Give some more specific information about what we want to cover in this instance of the weekly meeting, say, the agenda. And presently, we don't have the infrastructure to do that. So the choice is to add that capability into the events table, or add it into the Hangouts table, or add it somewhere else.
Well,
okay, go ahead.
I was just thinking that, we kind of spoke about this briefly, and the way I saw it in the beginning, at the very beginning when I created events table, that we create an event with a description, which is a kind of standard description for a Scrum, for instance, and yes, you might want to have a special agenda for each and individual Scrum, right? Apart, perhaps the description can differ a little bit, but most definitely you need to take some extra notes for each individual instance of this event series, right? So that's why I thought that it was a good idea to attach a schedule to each event. It's it's another object, a schedule object, right? And from that, create a new model. Like my plan was to call it an event instance. Where we could store additional information, and that event instance, the way I see it, would be very similar to the model we call Hangouts right now. I would like to rename it because I don't think that Hangout reflects exactly what it's all about, but it doesn't really matter.
I agree with you.
For me, on an abstract level, an event is basically everything we do here. It may be a Hangout, but it doesn't necessarily has to be a Hangout. You know what I mean? Most probably it is, but sometimes there are corner cases where Google is down. It happened us, I think it was in the beginning of the year, and we had to do an impromptu meeting over Skype. But it's still an event, although we don't use. It's not a Hangout anymore. That's why I, just of a language perspective, I would like to call it something else. But it's
I'm on the same page as you. I agree, 100%.
Great. All right. So anyways, so what I would say is that we still create events series in the events table, with an attached schedule, and we can modify that schedule, even though we say that it occurs on every Wednesday, like this dev meetings, right? We can still add functionality so that we can modify that schedule, that particular Wednesday or this particular Wednesday is canceled because it's Christmas or whatever, So that can be done fairly easy, actually.
Right. I started a separate branch to look into that, and right, there's like a to YAML and from YAML to get the schedule, the IceCube schedule, into text form so that it can then be stored as text in the table as a separate field. Yeah. So
and there are also methods in IceCube schedule to create exceptions from
right. Yeah, I played around with that too. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean we can investigate that even further.
Yeah. And
my idea.
We should add that. We should add that capability to the present events model, which has the schedule in it.
And that's one story. I think that would be. From the way I see it, it's one of the first, the first thing we should do. Then the second thing is, what I'm saying is that when we approach a date or a time where an event is supposed to be held, an event instance, then we either as a background job or like a back job, or by clicking, doing, by a user interaction, we create a user events instance, if there is such a need for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree.
Or perhaps if we as we do today, we display like the 5 upcoming occurrences. Perhaps at that moment when we display them, we can also just check, is this occurrence, is this instance created? If not, let's create it. You know what I mean? So that
I'm in favor of some strategy for lazily creating them, because we don't want to create the whole series up front if it's infinite, especially, which doesn't make sense.
Exactly. Right. So lazily create them, and in that model we can store additional information that is not covered in the first high-level events series, like the basic description and stuff, we could add stuff like additional notes. We can create a field for the recording, the YouTube link, the YouTube streaming link, participants, etc., basically. You know what I mean?
Hold on a second. Sampriti left put a note on here. Scroll down and have a look at the database diagram. Okay, so on this angelic schedule foo page.
Or further, just keep on scrolling.
There we are. There we are. Okay. Am I sharing my screen yet? By the way, yes, I am. Okay. So.
I mean, like this is kind of what similar to what our problem or what our feature is, and this is how they do it. Like this is how their database looks. I haven't really got into their code, so.
Okay.
I mean, we could take some ideas from this if that is helpful.
So this is this relates to the schedule for a recurring event, right? This is all about the schedule.
This is mostly about scheduling. So. And this does not use IceCube, I think.
No. Is this like a gem, or what is this?
This is like a gem which allows for scheduling events with dates and times, and it just gives you kind of like a, this is like a gem, and then there is an example app as well called our schedule, which is using it to create a calendar.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, but this, I think this is.
We can use this as a reference in some way.
Yeah, that's what,
I guess.
At this point, I don't think IceCube is the barrier. Say, I don't think it's the problem at this point.
No. I think it's just the way we use IceCube. It's because historically, I think that it's very shame that I was away for those 3 months during the summer, because at some point. When I left, and I was together with Sampriti helped me out, Brian helped me out, and Sam helped me out with the events model. But when I left, it kind of, the Hangout model shouldn't have been created the way it was created. We should have built upon the events model, basically. With the IceCube schedule and everything.
Let me ask you this, Thomas. If you want to just create a single Hangout that isn't part of a recurring series, would you recommend that you still create?
I would argue yes. I would argue that yes. Let's still create it at the very highest level. With an event in an events model, but then instantly create an events instance.
Okay, so let me think of the Hangout model as the event instance model. I added it. So to implement this, I did a database migration where I added a few fields to it. It didn't take much. Think of it that way. So if you want to create an event instance, just to me it seems to make sense. You just create an event instance, and there's no need to have it reference a schedule or a recurring series.
I gotcha.
Right?
I understand, but absolutely. For if all our events would be non-occurring. Then I would totally agree. But the thing is that we want to use the same data model in order, for both type of events, both the single instance events and occurring events, because that's the way.
Well, okay, but we want to use the same data model for event instances, whether they're one time, one-off, or if they are part of a series.
Yes.
And that's currently being done with this approach.
In the approach, you mean we have in place now, or?
No, with the way that I'm modifying it. Yeah.
All right. Okay. All right.
And then when the instance, right? So when the instances of a recurring series are instantiated, probably not making any sense with my wording, but when they're created and stored, they'll be stored to this event instance table, which happens to have the unfortunate name of Hangout.
Yes, and we can rename it. I mean, it's not a big biggie for us, right? I think it makes sense to do that, because you know, for instance, I know that there was this discussion about some ownership, you know, who creates what, right? I mean, I can be the one who creates an event series of for instance, those dev meetings, right? They are
Okay.
supposed to occur every Wednesday. But let's say I'm not here, so somebody else can be the one that actually starts, you know, the event, and, you know, hosts the event when the day comes, you know, the event instant.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And since we want to build upon this to assign karma points to our users for hosting events and even participating in them. For instance, just on top of my head, I give you 2 karma points for being the host of a event instance, and I give you 1 karma point for being a participant. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah.
And so if I created a series, but I'm not there, I shouldn't be getting any karma points, of course, right? So, you know, so we have to take ownership. Well, I mean, at least, you know, store the information about who's hosting the event on an event instance level. But we want to we still want to know who initiated the whole series as well. You know, so I mean, there's different information on a different level here that could come to use. And also, you know, for instance, the information, the description of a event series, like, you know, this is a Scrum for, you know, Euro Asia, blah blah blah. You know, this info could be overwritten. I mean, I also argue that we should not only save additional information, but we can also overwrite some of the information that is in the higher level, yet it's still stored, you know, in the events table for previous, you know, of the previous scrums, for instance. If I change the description ahead, I want the change to you know, to be made ahead, not in the previous ones. You know what I mean? So that's also something to take into consideration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me ask you guys kind of a Ruby Rails programming question. So okay, so when one of the stumbling blocks I'm hitting it when we go and start adding the recurring event instances to this list. Okay. Now they haven't been. If we're doing it lazily, let's say that we actually have also like a capability to look a month to next week, say. And obviously, we're not going to want to create those instances of the recurring event ahead of time, but we're going to want to display them. Now, if we display them, and we also include a button to edit, right? So now the thing is, there isn't a database record. There isn't an ID for that model yet. So if we did edit the way we usually do, you know, the path would be edit / and then the ID of that record. But there is no record yet. So so I hope we're on the same page. How would you implement an edit? Like, what would you send to the view to make that edit button work? How would you make that? Like, what
I would do is I would like allow the user to see the upcoming events up to the number of events that have been lazily created, and after that the user wouldn't be able to view any events. That is what I would do.
That's one way to do it, and I agree. Or
but they're lazily created, so they're not stored yet, right?
Yeah. So I mean, like if they are not stored, then I don't show them. Means whatever I've created, that's what I show.
No, but they could arise as a necessity to actually edit them ahead of time. So what I would do, I would make that particular edit button. I create, you know, to actually create and store info, and then open it in an edit mode. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that would be ideal.
And then, but in, you know, when the view is rendered, or, you know, when the call is made, I would say, is this, you know, is this already created? No. Okay, then display one sort of edit button, and it is, you know, another instance is created already in the database. Then another, you know, another mechanism would be in place, you know, attached to an edit button, basically. You know what I mean?
Okay.
That's what I would do. So, but let's recap a little bit. I would say that one of the first thing we need to do, the way I feel, is we need to add the update schedule, you know, functionality to the events model, so we can modify the attached schedule to each event series, right?
So you're just saying add the infrastructure, kind of add the database migration that we need to do, and maybe a method or two to remove an event instance from the series.
Yes,
that would be a good method to have.
Yes. And the second step would be to rename the Hangout model to event instance model, and create a mechanism for lazily creating those instances, right?
Okay.
And then as a third step, I would say that we need the ability for users to actually edit those, add additional information, and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I'd recommend breaking that up into starting out with non-recurring events, and then adding it to the recurring events, because that's where the that's where the shit hits the fan, right?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to write down notes, but I'm not thinking very well. Okay,
Yeah.
so the first step again.
What I would like you to, after this meeting or after tonight's meetings, there's no rush. If you could create we have a lot of these stories in Pivotal, and what we agree upon tonight, if you could map that to those existing stories or scrap them and create new ones, and I can leave that totally up to you. I have confidence that you can do that. So you can make those decisions. I don't have to participate in that if you don't want me to. You know what I mean? I mean, since you have the best understanding of this epic, so I think it's a good thing if you if you could take the time and do that. How do you feel about that?
Okay. Sure.
Right. Great. Because I mean, there are I think those 3 steps kind of are. Even if you break it, you can potentially break them up in smaller steps. But I think that covers the MVP for us. The minimal thing we want to achieve. There are a lot of other stuff that we can add to the events later on. But I'm a big fan of starting small.
Hey Thomas, what's the acronym MVP mean?
Minimal viable product.
Okay.
The very least we can agree is shippable, deliverable. I mean, that meets the acceptance criteria for the epic in this case. What we can live with, basically. On some other stories, smaller stories, an MVP is the first iteration. Is the simplest solution, working software kind of thing.
Got it.
So the basic idea is to replace the present the functionality in the present events page plus the functionality in the Hangouts page with one page.
I would focus. Sure. Yeah, the answer to this is yes. The short answer. The longer answer from on my part is I'm more into the back end thing, how it all connects logically. Than the display page, because you see we have this other situation when the events index page is one thing, but we also have, and this is important for me, if you have a look on my screen for a sec, if we go to projects to website 1, for instance, and we see this start a Hangout on Air button. Okay, so what that does is it starts a Hangout or some other stuff. I don't know what kind of logic is behind this right now, but what I want it to do in the future, I want this button to create an event instance, and then automatically launch the Google Hangout. I don't want the user to see that.
By the way, Thomas, I think it does part of that. Like it creates an event instance or a Hangout.
Yeah.
Like it creates a Hangout object and it automatically launches the Hangout, it just doesn't. The thing is, there is no event associated with it. That's
Yeah.
the only difference.
All right. So, but anyway, so that's good, and this is what something we need to keep. So, the reason I'm bringing this to your attention now, John, is that, you know, the user interface is one thing, you know, but we're gonna create events from different angles, from different pages, basically. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you know, whether it is a list like the one that Yarrow proposed, or even those boxes that I designed initially, you know, I would love to see a calendar, for instance, at least optionally, you know, for users to see. And
Yeah.
and of course, I mean, a list is a nice thing, but you know, a list can give you a good overview if there is, like, you know, 5 or 6 or 7 instances. You know, when you all of a sudden, when you have like 8, you know, 20 or 30 instances of different events and scrums, then a list is no longer a good user experience, you know. So let's talk about it, perhaps, you know, when the time comes, when that bridge needs to be crossed, because, you know, we will probably end up with a lot of opinions about how we present this sort of information. You know what I mean?
Mm.
But yes, I'm happy to see my original design go, because I don't think it's a good one, and I think a list, you know, as the one that Yarrow proposed is okay. So let's go with that for now. But in the future, we need to think about other ways to present this anyway. You know, so with what I'm trying to say, with a large amount of projects and a large amount of scrums, and you know, and different separate meetings, like client meetings or, you know, project specific meetings, we will end up with a lot of events that needs to be displayed for users, and we need to think about how to do that, you know, in an efficient way.
Yep.
There was a Rails cast that walks you through that calendar setup, Thomas, and I think it could be used as a base, because it takes.
Is that the JavaScript based calendar, or what?
Yeah, it was a JavaScript based calendar.
Yeah.
What he did was he created a calendar view based on it.
I know, it's a nice calendar, I think.
Yeah.
I played around with it a while back, and I got it to work, but I wasn't happy with not with the calendar. I wasn't happy with my own effort, with my, you know. So I was like, no, I don't want to use this for now. So I created something simpler. But yeah, I'd love to. We can write up a story. We can write up a story on that. You know, to have that implemented. But you know, then there are so many pitfalls there. You know, with, again, it's the mass of information that we need to convey to users that is the problem. Because even in a calendar view, you know, what happens if there's a lot of, you know, events that are kind of you know, overlapping each other, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
And
and so shall we color code them? Should we have text? You know, and you know, after a while, you know, a calendar view can look like a Christmas tree, you know, and it's not it's not a good user experience either, you know.
Yeah, I think I've thought about this, and one thing I like to do when I'm being presented with data is to explore and add, you know, things where I can amend the search and the calendar updates, or the view updates automatically. Like I may not be interested in certain types of scrums, or I may want to exclude scrums, I don't know, that are in the afternoon or whatever, Atlantic Scrum I'm not a fan of.
Exactly, and that's the challenge for us, since we know we're scrumming 24/7, at least in theory, and people are in different time zones. And for instance, when you say scrums that are in the afternoon, so whose afternoon? You know what I mean?
Right.
Of course yours, because you're the one that it's all about as a user. But the system has to know that, you know, what time zone are Amal in, and who's, you know, blah blah blah. You know what I'm saying? So it's a challenge. It's not an easy thing to do, and we need to. We will be forced to you know, to experiment with this and try things out, or present, you know, different people like to see things in a different way. So perhaps there will be users that would like to see lists or you know, boxes like I had, and others will be more confident having a look in a calendar. So I think that we should think about providing different ways of presenting data, basically.
Sure.
But okay, it seems like we're on the same page here. And yes, another thing I would like to say, and that's why I'm very keen on getting this working on this epic moving forward, because we have a huge problem in the way we present projects right now. As you see here, we have a videos tab on the project show page, and that videos tab is not populated anymore because the way we use the YouTube API does no longer return valid results.
We were using deprecated API or marked for deprecation. Okay.
What about the page that Marion developed? Would that still work?
That's still on develop. It hasn't been merged onto production yet.
Okay. So that one probably uses the same old way to access the videos, though. Actually, the one, the new Hangouts page, though, that one probably does have, because that one directly uses the the YouTube URL, which is stored in the Hangouts table.
Yeah.
So that one might work.
That's why I need.
Actually, that's a different project, by the way, because I mean that's just embedding the URL, and while we are searching for videos, that's a completely different thing.
Okay. See, all right, because that's why I was me and Brian spoke about this yesterday. We need information about those recordings stored locally, so we can pull them when we present the project's show page for users. We want to get this info from our own database instead of hitting the API. All right.
Okay, that's so much faster.
Once again.
Okay, that makes it very fast.
Yeah. And more reliable, because we want, I mean, all external APIs, calls to APIs are are potential pitfalls for us, right? I mean, we had a Pivotal Tracker was down a week and a half ago, and all of a sudden we couldn't access our site because this particular tab couldn't load. This one hits the Pivotal Tracker API, so that's a bit of a problem as well. There are, of course, workarounds on that, but this particular video issue we're facing right now is serious, because now one of the main objectives of this site is to present the visitors with past recordings of our pair programming sessions, and now we can't deliver on that. So it's not a good situation for me, if you know what I mean. That stresses me out.
Like we should have enough data in our database to start switching over to our own Hangouts logic. Like we did, I mean, although we might lose a lot of our previous videos, which are from YouTube, but I think we should have enough data in our database to, like, start showing it from, like, the YouTube IDs that are stored.
Yeah. Good point. Yeah. Another thing, just to bring your attention to it, is that on our members pages, right? If I go in and edit my own profile, you see that I can connect and disconnect YouTube, right?
Yeah.
That implies that if I disconnect YouTube, I also kind of I could see that as a way of saying, no, people from Agile Ventures are no longer going to display my videos, right?
I don't know how to fix that, because like when I was doing the YouTube refactoring, I did see that, but I didn't want to touch that because that was like solely part of the authentications controller, like, so it's just one line and that will be fixed, but nobody's gonna implement it.
Yeah, but you see, I kind of like that. I'm all about privacy and stuff. Yeah. So I would say that it's a good feature. If I click disconnect YouTube, for instance, then I don't want my YouTube channel to be accessible by website 1, and I think it's a good thing. The problem is that if we store information about each recording locally, and pull that data from that in order to present a project's show page, then we have to think about to respect that wish of a user. You know what I mean? So if I ever click disconnect YouTube, we need a mechanism in place that my videos will not longer be showed on a project's show page or any else in website 1, even if it doesn't involve an API call. You know what I mean? It's a privacy
To be honest,
issue.
I mean, instead of having disconnect YouTube, I think we should have another option, because that disconnect YouTube thing doesn't really make sense after we remove the API.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well,
And
you know, the user may not, you know, fully understand how we do things,
yeah,
but I agree. We can rephrase this.
yeah, it should be moved to a checkbox maybe,
Mm,
or like or maybe when you have make profile public or something like that.
mm, mm. All right. Any thoughts on that, Amal and John?
Yeah, along the lines of that, I mean, we have at the present state, the YouTube link is broken. We could probably add some functionality to limp it along by saying these are your videos currently. You can choose to give them the option for privacy. They could remove their own videos or include their videos in other people's search. I think that's a feature we want to go forward, where not only the privacy doesn't make sense in terms of for me, once the video has been shared and accessed, how do you want to extract it from the community view? Do you want to give individual privileges to each of the Hangout URLs?
Yeah,
Or
well, we could. That's fairly easily done, but yeah, it's. I mean, it's not a question how easy it's to do it, but how, you know, should we do it? Like here, we could have just a checkbox, you know, hide my videos. You know what I mean? It's like make profile public, make you know, my recordings public. We could have something something like
No,
that.
I'm talking about granularity. I want to hide everything except these, like a deny first type authorization.
Ah, well, I haven't thought about that.
The other thing, hi everyone, I've just jumped in at the last minute.
Oh, hi, Chris. Hi, how are you doing?
Hi. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, if you could delete your video on YouTube, and then our URL is stale.
Yeah, I think Yarrow wrote up a story like that, you know, to validate stored URLs. I don't know if he intended to create a background job or whatever, you know, that goes over that. But yes, it's a valid point you're making there, Christian.
One of the things I find difficult with the site is if I've missed a scrum or meeting and I want to catch up afterwards, I need to know who actually started it, because it appears at the moment only. So like, that's really irritating.
That will be solved, you know, in those lists of previous events that we're talking about right now, right, John?
I think that will be solved when, I mean, if you want to know the host of the Hangout, that will be solved when develop gets merged into production.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other thing I've had a little look, and I've been following the event model with, because I worked initially with John on this, and I've just been tracking it in the background because of interest. It seemed like I've worked in the past on subscription models, payment systems and stuff like that, where regular payments need to go out, and it is very confusing. And I think the event and the Hangout thing is slightly askew at the moment. I've got a few suggestions. One thing I'm particularly worried about is they seem to do full table scans, and there's no index on the Hangouts table and also on the events table, and it's not causing a problem at the moment because we've relatively few events. But the Hangouts is sort of increasing, I've noticed over the last month, to sort of 5 a day, so we're building up. We're going to be slowing, we've got to have a look at the indexes and also the query on the Hangout table, because the Hangout is presumably going to increase the more we've got pairing sessions taking place.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially since we're talking about, you know, some changes to the Hangout model as well. But yes, of course. John, your thoughts on that?
Oh, I just stepped back.
Oh.
I missed the gist of it.
I completely agree with that because, like, um, I mean, indexes are really a big problem because many of our queries in website one are slow, and we don't really have a proper monitoring tool for that. So, like, once when I was doing the refactoring, I like went through the whole model using a gem. I mean, the whole database, and I found that like none of the like many of the tables didn't have proper indexes for searches. So like the queries were pretty slow when there were lots of records. Although even like at that moment the database was pretty small for us, so that wasn't really affecting.
Hmm.
But yes, like with the Hangout model already growing in size, with that because we have like daily scrums, right? 4 scrums every day, which means 4 Hangouts every day.
Hmm.
So like that the Hangout model keeps on increasing. So
Hmm.
some uh, things needed to be speeded up there.
But
There's even a column missing on the Hangout table. There's no way to actually identify the instance it's referring to. It's like it's an instance table, but what we lack then is an ID or a time for that instance. The way it works at the moment, it's got the event ID, so then it can actually find the event it relates to and work it out that way.
well, it wasn't meant to do that up until now, but this is something that we are addressing right now, right, John?
Right.
I mean, I
Correct.
couldn't understand what you mean, what you meant there. Correct. Can you not repeat
Sorry, I
it?
missed that, Sampriti.
Yeah. Okay. So I couldn't understand what you meant there. Can you say that again?
Oh, correct me if I'm wrong, John, but I think you thought, and also I can see it. It appears like the Hangout table is like instances of events.
Yes.
There is a URL in the event. I'm not sure if that's actually set at the moment, but there's 2 URLs in the Hangout table. But all we've got in the Hangout table is the event ID.
No. We also have a column called UID, which helps
Oh,
the
okay.
Hangout. Yeah. So that is what helps the Hangout connection to ID, like send the requests back to the application. So the UID column is like a randomly generated ID which is passed to the Hangout when you click on the Start Hangout on Air button. So that's what helps to identify the Hangout.
That particular one.
Yeah, the UID.
So if I'm at an event and I want to find the one a week ago, how do I do that?
Um, like if you mean like you want to find a Hangout that happened a week ago.
Yeah.
In
So
that
like
particular event series, or in a specific series of
Yeah,
events?
I want to see last Tuesday's website 1 meeting.
Yeah, so
And
basically, like, I mean, we don't really have, a search like that, but what you can do is you can select the event, then you can get a list of Hangouts, and then you can just filter by created at. But you need to do that at the command line because we
but
don't have a
but there's no
yeah.
date on the Hangout.
The
In the
created
Hangout.
at is the date
What was
because
the date? Did you say?
the created at because like when a Hangout is created, that's when it
Oh,
started.
okay.
Oh.
Okay. Well, yeah. Okay.
Well,
I
guys,
was also
sorry to
thinking.
interrupt. Sorry to interrupt you guys. There's another 10 minutes to the dev meeting. I have to wrap this pre-meeting up. Since I'm the host, I have to stop the recording. I have to step away for a few minutes, put my little kid to sleep, and then come back and start the dev meeting. You guys are, of course, free to stick around in this hangout, but I'm going to stop the recording and step away for a while. And I see you in 10 minutes, all right?
Okay.
Okay, I will be posting another link for the actual dev meeting, okay?
Okay.
All right,
Yeah.
see you
Okay,
soon. Bye.
Thomas.